Hello, my name is William, and welcome to Dragon X Dominion, a realm where dragon legends are forged in fire, honor, and forgotten worlds. I will be your narrator and guide through these epic lands. If you crave powerful stories, legendary dragons, and wars that echo through eternity, then you found your home, ladies and gentlemen. So like, subscribe, and claim your place among these legends.
Sovereign Thunderwing drifted through the endless dark between stars. His massive body stretched longer than 3 cargo ships placed end to end. Blue and silver scales that once shimmered with inner light now looked dull and gray. Black patches spread across his wings where the void sickness had eaten away at his flesh. Every breath sent ripples of pain through his ancient frame. He was the last, the final dragon in all of existence. 10,000 years, he had ruled the cosmic winds with wisdom and strength. He had seen civilizations rise from primitive mud dwellers to star travelers. He had mediated wars and blessed peace treaties. He had taught young species how to reach beyond their atmospheres without destroying themselves. The galaxy had known prosperity under his watch. Then the void sickness came. It appeared first in the outer reaches, beyond charted space, a darkness that consumed life itself. The dragons investigated, thinking their power could heal any wound in reality. They were wrong. The sickness spread through their kind like fire through dry grass. Dragon after dragon fell, their essence drained until nothing remained but ash floating in the vacuum. Thunderwing watched his children die. He watched his mate fade to nothing in his arms. He watched the grand dragon cities go silent one by one until he alone survived. And now the sickness claimed him too. His vision blurred. Time grew strange. He could feel his power leaking from the cracks in his scales, dissipating into nothing. Soon there would be no dragons, no guardians. The young species would face the void alone and they would fall. Unless... Thunderwing steadied himself. His claws carved symbols into the fabric of space itself, ancient words from before the first stars ignited. The sundering ritual, a technique so dangerous, so forbidden that no dragon had attempted it in living memory. To split one's essence was to die, not just the body but the soul itself, fractured beyond recovery. But what was one more death when his entire species lay extinct? He spoke the words of power. Reality bent around him, responding to his will one final time. The energy within his core, the fundamental force that made him what he was, began to separate. It hurt worse than the sickness. It felt like his heart being torn into pieces. 7 storms emerged from his chest. Each one carried a different aspect of his nature. The storm of sky bright and swift, crackling with freedom and wind. The storm of water, gentle and deep, flowing with healing and life. The storm of earth, solid and enduring, heavy with strength and stability. The storm of lightning, sharp and quick, connecting all things with electric purpose. The storm of growth, patient and persistent, nurturing creation itself. The storm of metal, precise and strong, shaping raw matter into tools and beauty. The storm of fire, fierce and protective, burning with passion and courage. Thunderwing watched the 7 storms circle his dying body. They pulsed with light, waiting for direction. He had one final command to give. "Find those with worthy hearts," he whispered, his voice barely a rumble in the void. "Find those who choose mercy over conquest. Find humans." The humans puzzled him. They were so young, barely 10,000 years past their first stone tools. They possessed no natural weapons, no armored hides, no venomous fangs. They were weak and soft and died so easily. Yet they had reached the stars through sheer stubborn will. They built what nature did not give them. They dreamed impossible dreams and then made them real. More than that, they cared. He had watched them rescue species they had never met. He had seen them weep over tragedies on worlds they would never visit. They felt the pain of others as if it were their own. Such strange, fragile, beautiful creatures. If any species could carry dragon power without being corrupted by it, it would be them. "Go," Thunderwing commanded. "Find 7 hearts, hide within them, keep them safe. When the galaxy needs you most, awaken." The storms shot away like comets, each one blazing a different color across the dark. They moved with purpose, guided by his final wish, seeking the worthy among billions of souls. Thunderwing felt himself fading. His scales turned to dust. His wings dissolved into particles of light. His thoughts grew quiet and still. He did not fight it. Death came almost as a relief after so much pain and loss. His last thought was a hope. Perhaps the humans would succeed where dragons had failed. Perhaps kindness and cooperation could defeat what raw power could not. Perhaps 7 storms hidden in 7 hearts would be enough. Then Sovereign Thunderwing, last of the cosmic dragons, king of the star winds, guardian of 10,000 years, simply ceased to exist. The 7 storms raced through space, passing nebulas and asteroid fields, diving through solar systems and circling planets. They were searching, testing, feeling for the right resonance. Not the strongest hearts or the smartest minds, something else, something harder to define. Compassion mixed with courage, gentleness paired with determination, the ability to carry great power and still choose to be kind. One by one, the storms found their targets. The sky storm dove toward a small cargo ship navigating an asteroid field. Inside, a pilot named Daniel Reed cursed at his malfunctioning navigation computer while simultaneously calculating manual trajectories in his head. The storm slipped through the hull as if metal were mist. It found his heart and nested there, quiet and waiting. The water storm flowed through the ventilation system of a research station. It discovered a woman named Lily Okonkwo staring at test results, tears streaming down her face because she could not save her patients from a plague. The storm touched her shoulder and merged with her grief, transforming sorrow into something new. The Earth storm rose from an asteroid's core. It sensed Roger Chen Williams standing on a mining platform, his hands scarred from years of hard labor, his back bent but never broken. The storm recognized endurance and claimed him. The lightning storm became pure energy and raced through communication arrays. It found Natasha Volkov in the midst of connecting 12 different star systems in a single conference call, her mind holding all the threads together. The storm joined that web and made it stronger. The growth storm drifted into a colony ship's greenhouse. Omar Bashir tended plants with gentle hands, speaking to them softly, encouraging them to thrive in artificial soil. The storm settled into the roots and stems, and then into the gardener himself. The metal storm sang through a salvage yard where Grace Tanaka welded broken ship parts back together. She saw potential in every piece of scrap, beauty in twisted metal. The storm recognized a kindred spirit and bonded with her creative fire. The firestorm burned through a space station's corridors, drawn to shouting voices. William Cross stood between angry security forces and frightened refugee children, his body a shield, his voice calm even as his heart raced. The storm admired such protective instinct and chose him. Within one solar week, all 7 storms found their homes, 7 humans across. 7 different worlds suddenly carried fragments of the last Dragon King in their chests. They did not know each other. They did not know what they had become. But they would learn. The galaxy had just changed forever, and nobody realized it yet. Daniel Reed woke up screaming. His cargo ship hung in stable orbit around a mining colony, autopilot handling the routine approach. He had gone to sleep like any other night, exhausted from a 12-hour haul through the asteroid belt. Normal dreams filled his head at first. Flying, endless sky, freedom. Then the dreams changed. He saw himself from impossible heights, looking down at his ship like an insect crawling across a vast canvas. He felt wind that did not exist in vacuum, heard songs in a language older than human civilization. Memories flooded his mind that were not his own. A blue dragon weeping, stars going dark, the taste of storm clouds and lightning. When he jerked awake, his arms hurt. Daniel stumbled to the tiny bathroom and turned on the light. Silver blue scales covered both forearms from wrist to elbow. They overlapped like armor plates, catching the light with an iridescent shimmer. He touched them, expecting them to flake off. They did not. They were part of his skin now. "What the hell?" he whispered. His reflection stared back at him, eyes wide with terror. This was not a rash, not a disease he recognized. The scales felt warm under his fingers, almost alive. When he concentrated on them, they seemed to pulse with faint light. He tried to calm down, think logically. Maybe he caught something from the last station, some alien bacteria that affected human skin. There were treatments for that sort of thing. He just needed to get to a medical facility. Daniel reached for his shirt hanging on the wall hook. His hand moved too fast and wind exploded from his palm. The shirt flew backward and slammed into the opposite wall hard enough to dent the metal. The bathroom door rattled. Loose items scattered across the floor. He froze, hand still outstretched, heart hammering. That should not be possible. Humans did not create wind from nothing. Physics did not work that way. Across the galaxy, 6 other people experienced their own awakenings. Lily Okonkwo worked late in her research lab, analyzing blood samples from plague victims. She had been fighting this disease for 3 years with little success. Every treatment failed. Every vaccine proved useless. She watched good people die while she scribbled notes and ran tests that led nowhere. A sample tube slipped from her tired fingers. She grabbed for it instinctively. Her hand touched the glass and blue light poured from her skin. The tube stopped falling. Time seemed to slow. Then the light flowed into the blood sample itself. Lily watched, unable to move, as the diseased cells in the tube began to heal. Dead tissue regenerated. The plague markers vanished. Within seconds, the sample showed completely healthy blood. She set the tube down with shaking hands, looked at her palms. The blue scales running up her wrists were definitely not there yesterday. Roger Chen Williams survived what should have killed him. The mining platform's support beam cracked without warning. 3 tons of rock and metal fell directly toward where he stood, checking equipment readings. He looked up, saw death coming, had no time to run. The rock hit him. It should have crushed every bone in his body, should have splattered him across the platform like an insect. Instead, the rock moved around him. The metal bent. His body refused to break. He stood in the center of the impact zone, completely unharmed, covered in dust and debris. Gray-brown scales covered his arms and neck. He felt heavy, solid, like he weighed 1,000 pounds. When he stepped forward, his boots cracked the platform's metal grating. His crew members stared at him like he was a ghost. Natasha Volkov sent a routine communication through her terminal. Her job involved coordinating messages between star systems, managing data streams, ensuring information flowed smoothly. She had done it 1,000 times. This time felt different. When her fingers touched the keyboard, she felt herself spread out. Her consciousness flowed into the network itself. She became the data stream, riding pulses of light across vast distances. For one impossible moment, she existed in 12 different star systems simultaneously, seeing through cameras, reading messages, understanding everything at once. Then she snapped back into her body, gasping, purple-blue scales glittering on her hands. She could still feel the network humming around her, calling to her, inviting her to merge with it again. Omar Bashir tended his plants in the colony's ship's greenhouse. The tomatoes were dying despite his best efforts. Something about the artificial soil. Composition was wrong. He had tried everything, adjusted every variable, but they continued to wilt. He placed his hand on a dying plant, sadness filling his chest. Green light blazed from his palm. The plant straightened under his touch. Leaves unfurled, turning from yellow to vibrant green. Flowers bloomed. Tomatoes grew to full size in seconds, ripening before his eyes. Omar jerked his hand away, but the growth continued, spreading to nearby plants. The entire greenhouse erupted into life, vines climbing the walls, flowers opening in cascades of color. Green scales covered his forearms, warm and alive. He stood in the center of an impossible garden and tried to understand what he had become. Grace Tanaka worked in her salvage yard, attempting to repair a ship engine that was more broken than functional. 3 critical components were completely destroyed. Replacement parts would cost more than the engine was worth. She almost gave up. Instead, she placed her hands on the broken metal and wished, just for a moment, that she could fix it perfectly. Silver scales appeared on her arms. The metal under her palms became liquid, flowing like water, reshaping itself. Broken pieces fused together, cracks sealed. The engine rebuilt itself according to her will, becoming not just functional but better than new. Grace lifted her hands and watched the metal solidify into perfect working condition. Her reflection in the polished surface showed scales glinting across her shoulders and neck. William Cross taught history to refugee children on a frontier station. The class was discussing Earth's ancient wars when the fire alarm screamed. Smoke poured through the ventilation. The children panicked, crying, running toward the sealed emergency doors. William put himself between the fire and the children. Flames roared down the corridor, hungry and fast. He spread his arms wide, knowing this was hopeless, knowing they would all burn. The fire hit him and stopped. Flames parted around his body like water around a stone. Heat washed over him without burning. Orange-red scales covered his skin, glowing with inner light. He walked forward into the inferno, feeling no pain, and found the manual release for the emergency doors. The children escaped. William stood in the flames, untouched, and wondered what kind of man he had become. Ambassador Trilven sat in her quarters, aboard the diplomatic vessel Concordance. Her species, the Avon, resembled Earth's birds but much larger, with iridescent feathers and intelligent eyes. She was reviewing reports from various systems when a word caught her attention. Scales. Then another report, different system, same word, scales appearing on humans, blue, silver, green, orange, purple, brown. Her heart quickened. She accessed her people's historical database, searching for old legends. The Avon remembered. They were one of the few species old enough to have met the dragons before the void sickness destroyed them. 7 aspects, 7 colors, 7 gifts hidden in 7 hearts. O ancestors, Trilven whispered, her feathers rising in agitation. It is happening, the prophecy is real. She composed a message, encrypting it with the highest security protocols, and sent it to the rough-scale clans. They needed to know. The dragon storms had awakened. Across human space, military intelligence noticed the unusual incidents. Impossible healings, unexplained survival, gravity defiance, energy manipulation, spontaneous growth, matter reshaping, fire immunity. 7 individuals, 7 impossible abilities, all manifesting within the same week. Captain Reeves read the compiled reports and felt ice in his stomach. This was either first contact with a shape-shifting species or something worse. Either way, Earth needed answers. He issued orders. Find these people, bring them in, figure out what they are before they become a threat. Daniel Reed sat in his cargo ship, staring at the silver-blue scales on his arms. He tried to make the wind happen again. Nothing. He focused harder. A gentle breeze stirred the air around him. This was real. This was happening. He was changing into something not quite human anymore. His communication console beeped. Incoming message on all channels, broadcast wide enough that everyone in human space could receive it. A bird-like alien appeared on the screen. Her feathers shimmered with subtle colors, her voice calm and reassuring. If your body has changed, she said, if you carry scales and power you do not understand, you are not alone, you are not sick, you are chosen. Come to Refuge Station at the following coordinates. The galaxy needs you. Time is short. Please trust me. Daniel looked at his scaled arms, at his ship's navigation console, at the empty cargo hold that represented his entire life. He set a course for Refuge Station. Across the galaxy, 6 others made the same decision. Refuge Station orbited a neutral world called Haven's Rest. Built by cooperation between 12 different species, it served as a place for peaceful meetings and diplomatic negotiations. Circular in design, with transparent domes showing the planet below, it had hosted treaties that prevented wars and agreements that saved millions of lives. Daniel arrived first. His cargo ship looked shabby next to the sleek diplomatic vessels in the docking bay. He kept his scaled arms covered with long sleeves despite the station's warm temperature. A small delegation met him at the airlock, led by Ambassador Trilvan herself. "Thank you for coming," she said, her feathers rustling with what Daniel guessed was relief. "The others are arriving soon. We have prepared a private chamber for your meeting." "What am I?" Daniel asked bluntly. "What is happening to me?" "You carry a gift," Trilvan replied, "and a terrible responsibility. Please wait for the others. You should hear this together." Over the next 6 hours, the rest arrived. Lily came from her research station, hands trembling, scales hidden under medical gloves. Roger landed his mining shuttle with careful precision, his increased weight making normal movements dangerous. Natasha appeared distracted, her eyes unfocused, still feeling the pull of nearby computer networks. Omar brought a small plant with him, clutching it like a security blanket. Grace arrived in a battered salvage tug, tools hanging from her belt. William came last, escorted by station security because his mere presence had caused 3 separate fire suppression systems to activate. They gathered in a large council chamber with a round table. 7 humans, all wearing long sleeves or gloves, all avoiding eye contact. They looked at each other and saw their own fear reflected back. "I can heal people," Lily said quietly, breaking the silence. "With just a touch, I healed cells that were dead. That is not possible." "I survived 3 tons of rock falling on my head," Roger added, his deep voice rumbling. "Did not even bruise." One by one, they shared what had happened. The transformations, the powers, the scales that would not go away. As they spoke, the tension in the room eased slightly. At least they were not alone in this strangeness. Ambassador Trilvan stepped forward. With her came an elderly reptilian creature, scales weathered, and gray, walking with the aid of a carved staff. He introduced himself as High Scholar Marin of the rough-scale clans. "My people descended from those who served the dragons," Marin said, his voice crackling with age. "We remember the old stories. We kept the records when other species forgot." He activated a holographic display. Images appeared above the table, showing massive creatures flying through space itself. Dragons. Their scales shimmered with inner light, their wings spread wider than cities. They moved with grace and power, living embodiments of elemental forces. "Sovereign Thunderwing ruled for 10,000 years, Marin continued. "He was wise and just. Under his protection, young species grew safely, wars were prevented, knowledge was shared, then the void sickness came." The hologram shifted, showing darkness spreading across star maps. Dragons dying, their light fading. Empty space where civilizations once thrived. "The sickness consumed life energy itself," Trilvan explained. "No weapon could fight it, no medicine could cure it. The dragons tried to stop it and failed. They all died one by one until only Thunderwing remained." "What does this have to do with us?" Natasha asked, her voice sharp with stress. Marin looked at each of them in turn. Rather than let his power die with him, Thunderwing performed the Sundering ritual. He split his essence into 7 storms, each carrying one aspect of his nature. Those storms traveled across space, searching for worthy vessels. They found you. Silence filled the chamber. "You are saying we have dragon power inside us?" Grace asked slowly. "Actual dragon power." 1/7 each, Marin confirmed. "The sky storm for flight and wind, the water storm for healing and life, the earth storm for strength and endurance, the lightning storm for energy and connection, the growth storm for creation and nature, the metal storm for crafting and shaping, the fire storm for protection and passion." Daniel felt dizzy. This was insane. Dragons were myths, stories. They did not actually exist, and they certainly did not give their power to random humans. "Why us?" Omar asked softly, still holding his plant. "Why choose humans at all?" "Because you care," Trilvan said simply. "Dragons observed many species. Humans are young and weak compared to most galactic civilizations. You have no natural weapons, no armored bodies, but you choose. Kindness even when it costs you. You save strangers. You weep for suffering that is not your own. Thunderwing believed if any species could carry dragon power without being corrupted, it would be humans." "This is too much," Natasha said, standing abruptly. Her scales flashed purple. I did not ask for this. I do not want this. I want to be normal again. Before anyone could respond, a priority alert sounded through the station. Dr. Yuki Sato, a human xenobiologist assigned to Refuge Station, rushed into the chamber with a data pad. "Forgive the interruption," she said breathlessly, "but you need to see this immediately." The holographic display changed, showing a star system in the Centauri cluster. Dark patches spread across one of the planets, visible even from orbit. The same darkness from Marin's historical records. "The void sickness has appeared in human space," Dr. Sato said grimly. "This was recorded 2 days ago. The infection is spreading. We estimate the entire planet will be dead within a week." The room went silent. "How many people live there?" William asked. 43 million, Dr. Sato replied. "Mostly colonists, families, children." Lily stared at the image, her healer's instincts screaming. "Can we evacuate them?" "Not in time, and if we send ships, we risk spreading the sickness to other systems. Quarantine protocols are already in effect." "So we just let them die?" Grace demanded. Marin tapped his staff on the floor. "This is why the storms chose you. This is why you were given power. The void sickness killed the dragons, but Thunderwing believed that together the 7 storms could create the healing wind, a force capable of curing even this plague." "We do not know how to do that," Roger protested. "We barely understand our own abilities." "Then you must learn quickly," Marin said, "because if the sickness is not stopped, it will spread. System by system, world by world, everything will die." The door to the chamber burst open. Captain Reeves strode in with a squad of armed soldiers in Earth military uniforms. He looked at the 7-scaled humans and his expression hardened. "By authority of Earth Central Command, I am placing all of you under protective custody," he announced. "You will submit to medical examination and questioning. This is not negotiable." William stood, scales glowing orange. "We are not going anywhere." "Stand down," Reeves ordered his soldiers, raising their weapons. Ambassador Trilvan stepped between them. "This chamber is under diplomatic immunity, Captain. You have no jurisdiction here." "Those are human citizens who have been infected with unknown alien biology," Reeves countered. "That supersedes diplomatic protocols." The tension in the room became electric. Literally, purple lightning crackled around Natasha's clenched fists. Wind swirled around Daniel. Plants began sprouting from cracks in the floor near Omar. "Please," Lily said, stepping forward with her hands raised peacefully. "We are not a threat. We are trying to understand this ourselves." Reeves studied her, then looked at the hologram still showing the dying planet. His jaw tightened. "You have 72 hours, he said finally. "Prove you are not dangerous. Prove you can help. If you cannot do both, I will have you detained regardless of diplomatic immunity. The safety of humanity comes first." He turned and left, his soldiers following. The 7 humans looked at each other. 72 hours to learn dragon powers they did not understand. 72 hours to save a planet. 72 hours to prove they were guardians, not threats. "Where do we start?" Daniel asked. Marin smiled slightly. "First, you must learn to work together. Dragon power is strongest when unified. Come, we will begin your training immediately." As they followed the old scholar from the chamber, each of them felt the weight of what they carried. 7 storms, 7 hearts, 1 impossible mission. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the void sickness continued spreading, hungry and patient. It had consumed the dragons. Now it came for everything else. But this time, the dragons had left behind a gift. 7 pieces of hope hidden in the most unlikely vessels. The galaxy would soon discover if that hope was enough. The ship Horizon's dawn cut through space toward the dying planet. Built for diplomatic missions, it had never carried a cargo as strange as 7 humans with dragon power in their blood. Through the viewports, they could see their destination growing larger. Half the world below looked normal, green and blue and alive. The other half was covered in spreading darkness that consumed everything it touched. High Scholar Marin had spent the entire journey teaching them meditation techniques passed down from dragon servants thousands of years ago. The seven sat in a circle on the floor of the ship's cargo hold, eyes closed, trying to find the quiet center within themselves. Feel the storm inside you, Marin instructed, his old voice patient. Do not fight it, do not fear it, simply acknowledge it exists. Daniel felt the sky storm swirling in his chest. It wanted to break free, to fly, to race through open air. Keeping it contained felt like holding his breath underwater. Next to him, Lily radiated a calm blue glow as the water storm pulsed gently with each heartbeat. Now reach out, Marin continued. Feel the storms in those beside you. You are separate, but you are also connected, 7 pieces of one whole. Daniel extended his awareness cautiously. He sensed Lily's healing presence to his left, warm and soothing. On his right, Roger's earthen stability felt solid as bedrock. Beyond them, the other 4 glowed with their own distinct energies. Lightning, growth, metal, fire, all different, all part of the same source. Good, Marin said. You are beginning to understand. Now we will attempt the shared space. The temperature in the cargo hold dropped. Reality seemed to bend. Daniel felt himself falling inward through layers of consciousness he did not know existed. The others fell with him, their essences tangling together like threads weaving into cloth. They found themselves standing in a place that was not a place. Gray mist surrounded them on all sides. The ground beneath their feet felt solid but looked like fog. Above them, no stars shone. No sky existed. "Where are we?" Grace asked, her voice echoing strangely. A shape emerged from the mist. Massive beyond comprehension, blue and silver scales gleaming with faint light. Wings that could eclipse moons. Eyes older than civilizations, filled with sadness and hope and tired wisdom. Sovereign Thunderwing regarded them silently. "You are not real," Natasha whispered. "You died," Marin said. "You died." "I did die," the dragon replied, his voice like distant thunder. "This is merely an echo, a fragment of memory preserved in the power you carry. I am not truly Thunderwing. I am what he left behind." The 7 humans stared at the ghost of the Dragon King. Even as an echo, he radiated immense presence. Standing before him, they felt small and inadequate. "Why us?" William asked, the question that had haunted all of them. "We are nobody special, just ordinary people." Thunderwing's massive head lowered until one eye was level with them. "That is precisely why. The greatest power requires the humblest vessels. Conquerors would have used my gifts to dominate. Warriors would have used them to destroy. But you, ordinary people who choose kindness, you will use them to protect." "We do not know how," Lily said. "The void sickness is killing millions. We barely control our own abilities." "The sickness cannot be fought with force," Thunderwing explained. "It feeds on life energy, grows stronger when attacked. Only by combining the 7 storms can you create the healing wind, a force that fills emptiness instead of fighting it." "How do we combine them?" Roger asked practically. "You must achieve perfect unity, not sameness. Unity. 7 voices singing in harmony, each maintaining its own note while blending into the greater song. You must trust each other completely, hold nothing back. Let your individual powers merge into one force." The dragon began to fade. "I can show you the moment I split my power. Perhaps understanding the sundering will help you achieve the joining." The mist around them shifted, became clear. They stood in space, watching Thunderwing's final moments. They saw him floating in the void, saw the black patches of void sickness consuming his flesh, felt his pain as if it were their own. They watched him carve symbols into reality itself, heard him speak words that made existence tremble, witnessed his essence tearing apart, 7 storms ripping free from his core. The agony of it brought tears to their eyes. But they also felt his peace, his acceptance, his hope that this sacrifice would mean something. "He could have survived," Omar said softly as the vision faded. "If he had kept his power whole, he might have lived." "But divided his power could grow," Thunderwing's echo replied. "Could adapt, could find new forms. 7 storms in 7 hearts are stronger than one dragon alone if those 7 can truly unite. The shared space dissolved. The 7 humans snapped back to their bodies in the cargo hold, gasping. Marin watched them with knowing eyes. "Now you understand," he said simply. Daniel looked at the others with new perspective. They were not just random people who happened to be chosen. They were parts of a whole, incomplete alone, stronger together. Approaching the planet, the ship's pilot announced over the intercom. "We have clearance to enter the infected zone." The 7 stood, helping each other up. Through the viewports, the dark half of the world loomed larger. From this distance, they could see tendrils of void sickness spreading across the surface like roots. Dr. Sato appeared in the doorway, her face grim. "I have been analyzing the infection pattern. The sickness operates on quantum levels, existing partially in another dimension. It does not just consume matter. It consumes the fundamental energy that makes matter alive." "Can we stop it?" Lily asked. "Unknown, no one has ever stopped it before. The dragons all died trying." "But we are not just dragons," William said, scales glowing orange along his jaw. "We are humans carrying dragon power. Maybe that makes a difference." The ship shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Alarms began sounding. The void sickness was interfering with their systems, draining power from the engines. "We need to get closer to the center," Marin said. "The heart of the infection, that is where you must release the healing wind." Daniel moved to the pilot's controls. "I can fly us in manually. Everyone strap in. This is going to be rough." They descended through clouds that looked wrong, twisted, sick. The air itself seemed poisoned. Below them, cities lay silent and dark. Nothing moved, nothing lived. The sickness had consumed everything. "There," Marin pointed. "That rift in space, that is where the infection entered this world." Daniel saw it. A wound in reality itself, darkness pouring through like blood from a cut. His piloting skills, enhanced by the sky storm, navigated through the worst of the turbulence. The ship dropped lower, systems failing one by one. They landed in a dead forest near the rift. The trees looked like charcoal sculptures. The ground was ash. Even the air felt heavy, drained of vitality. The 7 exited the ship wearing environmental suits, though they suspected the suits would not protect them from what waited outside. Marin stayed aboard, too old for this final journey. "When you are ready," he said, "join hands. Let the storms merge, trust each other completely." They walked toward the rift. With each step, they felt the void sickness pressing against them, trying to drain their life force. The dragon power protected them, but barely. This close to the source, the sickness was overwhelmingly strong. They formed a circle near the wound in space. 7. Humans, scared and uncertain, carrying the last hope of a dead species. "I am frightened," Lily admitted. "Me too," Daniel replied, "but we are frightened together." They joined hands. Scales touched scales. The 7 storms began to swirl, reaching for each other across the spaces between their hearts. For a moment it felt right. The power flowed smoothly, blending and mixing. Daniel sensed the merge beginning, felt himself becoming part of something greater. Then fear struck. What if he lost himself in the merge? What if Daniel Reed ceased to exist, consumed by the collective? He pulled back instinctively, trying to protect his individual identity. The moment he hesitated, the others felt it. The merge fractured. The power that had been flowing smoothly suddenly turned chaotic. 7 storms collided instead of combining. Energy exploded outward. They were thrown apart, landing hard on the ash-covered ground. The void sickness surged toward them, sensing weakness. "Back to the ship," William shouted, flames erupting from his hands to hold back the darkness. They ran, stumbling, barely making it to the airlock before the sickness could claim them. The ship's engines ignited, lifting them away from the surface. They had failed. In the cargo hold, the 7 sat in defeated silence. Daniel looked at his hands, still trembling. "I am sorry," he said. "I pulled back, I was afraid." "We all were," Natasha admitted. I felt it too, the fear of losing who I am. Through the viewports, the dying planet receded. 43 million people continued their slow death. The void sickness spread unchecked. They had the power to save them, but they did not have the unity. Not yet. Horizon's Dawn floated in orbit above the dying world. In the cargo hold, 7 people sat apart from each other, wrapped in their own shame and fear. Below them, millions continued dying while they had run away like cowards. "We should try again," Grace said, breaking the heavy silence. "We can do better, we just need to focus more." "Focus was not the problem," Roger replied quietly. "Fear was the problem, I felt it too. When the merge started, I was terrified of disappearing." "So what do we do?" Natasha asked, her voice sharp with frustration. "Those people down there do not have time for us to work through our feelings." "Maybe we are not strong enough," Omar suggested. "Maybe Thunderwing chose wrong." "Do not say that," Lily protested, but her voice lacked conviction. The argument that had been simmering since their failure finally erupted. Voices rose, blame flew back and forth. Grace accused Natasha of fighting against the merge the whole time. Roger defended Natasha, which made William defensive about Grace. Daniel tried to mediate, which made everyone angrier at him for being diplomatic. "You all talk about unity," Natasha shouted, "but none of you actually want it. You want me to disappear into your collective so you feel comfortable." "That is not fair," Lily shot back. "I am just as scared as you." "Then why did you not pull back too?" "Because people are dying." Lily's scales flashed bright blue. "Because my fear matters less than their lives." "Easy for you to say when you are not the one who feels most different," Natasha replied. "The rest of you adapted so quickly. You accept this. I did not ask to become part dragon. I did not want this." The temperature in the cargo hold began rising as William's anger manifested as heat. Plants sprouted from every crack and seemed as Omar's emotions leaked into his power. Wind from Daniel's frustration rattled loose equipment. The metal walls groaned under Grace's unconscious influence. "Enough," Ambassador Trilvan appeared in the doorway, her feathers raised in agitation. "Separate, now, before you tear this ship apart." They obeyed reluctantly, moving to different sections of the vessel. The silence that followed felt worse than the shouting. High Scholar Marin moved slowly through the ship, visiting each of them individually. He found Natasha in an observation room, staring at the stars with purple tears running down her scaled cheeks. "Why did he choose me?" she asked without turning. "I am not brave like the others. I am not kind like Lily or strong like Roger. I am just someone who is good with computers." "What do you fear most about the merge?" Marin asked gently. "That I will stop being myself. That Natasha Volkov will disappear and become just 1/7 of something else." Marin settled beside her with a soft grunt. "May I tell you something about dragons? They were intensely individual, each one different from all others, yet they could merge their essences for brief periods when necessary. Do you know how?" "How?" "They brought their full selves into the union. Every flaw, every strength, every unique quality, the merge did not erase. Differences, it celebrated them. 7 distinct voices creating harmony precisely because they were different." He found Roger in the engine room, using his enhanced strength to repair damage from their turbulent descent. "I should have been stronger," Roger said, tightening a bolt with his bare hands. "Should have held the merge together." "Why do you believe strength means never showing fear?" Marin asked. Roger paused, "Because that is what strength is, endurance, not breaking under pressure." "Is it, or is strength the honesty to admit when you are afraid? You felt the others pulling back and you joined them in that fear. That was not weakness. That was empathy." In the medical bay, Lily ran tests on her own blood, trying to understand the dragon changes on a cellular level. "I heal people," she said when Marin entered. "That is my purpose, my identity. But when we tried to merge, I felt my healing power wanting to change, to become part of something larger. What if I lose the ability to save individuals because I became something else?" "What if," Marin countered, You gain the ability to save entire worlds. He found the others in similar states. Grace worried her creativity would be dampened by group thinking. Omar feared his gentle nature would be overwhelmed. William carried guilt from his military past, certain he would corrupt the merge with his capacity for violence. Daniel felt inadequate, like he was not enough to anchor the sky storm. Marin gathered them all in the council chamber one more time. They came reluctantly, still hurt and angry and scared. "You want to know the real reason you failed?" Marin asked. "Not because you were afraid, fear is natural. You failed because you lied to each other." "We did not lie," William protested. "You did through omission, through hiding your true fears, through pretending to be braver than you felt." Marin looked at each of them. "The merge requires total honesty. No masks, no pretending. You must bring your whole selves, including the parts you consider ugly or weak." "That sounds terrifying," Grace admitted. "It is, true intimacy always is, but it is also the only path forward." Dr. Sato entered with new data. "The sickness has accelerated. We have less than 24 hours before the entire planet is consumed. After that, it will spread to the neighboring system." 24 hours, one day to achieve what they could not do. "In 3. I want to see the dragon's memories again," Natasha said suddenly. "The moment he split his power, but this time I want to really look at it." Marin nodded. They returned to the cargo hold, formed their meditation circle, and descended into the shared space. The gray mist welcomed them. The dragon's echo appeared. "Show us the sundering," Natasha requested, "but slowly show us everything." The vision unfolded again, but this time they did not just watch, they felt. They experienced Thunderwing's perspective as he prepared to die. They felt his grief for his lost species, his rage at the void sickness, his despair at failing to save his people, his loneliness as the last of his kind, his bone-deep weariness after 10,000 years of rule. They felt all of it, every complicated, messy emotion. And then they felt his choice. Not heroic, not grand, just a tired old dragon deciding that even in death he could try to help, that his pain could become someone else's strength, that failure could transform into hope. When he split his power, they felt why he chose humans specifically. Not because humans were perfect, because humans were beautifully, defiantly imperfect. They failed and tried again. They felt fear and acted anyway. They carried contradictions in their hearts and somehow made it work. The vision faded. The 7 humans looked at each other with new understanding. "I am afraid of losing myself," Natasha said, her voice steady. "I resent being chosen, and I am angry that my body changed without my permission." "I am afraid I am not good enough," Daniel admitted. "That I'm just a cargo pilot playing at being a hero." One by one they spoke their truths, the ugly parts, the scared parts, the parts they had been hiding even from themselves. When they finished, the air in the cargo hold felt different, lighter, honest. "We have one more chance," Lily said. "One last attempt before that planet dies." "Then let us do it right," Roger replied. "No more hiding, no more pretending. We go down there and we bring everything we are, flaws included." They prepared to descend again. This time, Omar had an idea. Using his growth power, he would create a physical anchor, a living pattern on the ground that could help them visualize their unity. As the ship descended through the poisoned atmosphere, the 7 storm carriers stood together. Not fearless, not perfect, not even particularly confident. Just 7 ordinary people who decided that 43 million lives mattered more than their own fear. The ship landed in the dead forest once more. They stepped out into ash and death. Omar knelt and placed his hands on the ground. Green light blazed from his palms. Plants erupted from the poisoned soil, growing in impossible spirals and patterns. A living mandala spread across the ash, 7 pathways meeting at a central point. Each carrier walked their path, leaving glowing footprints of their elemental power. Blue water, silver wind, brown earth, purple lightning, green growth, gray metal, orange fire. The paths met at the center. 7 storm carriers stood in a circle, facing each other, scales glowing. "Ready?" Daniel asked. "No," Natasha replied, "but let us do it anyway." They joined hands and opened their hearts completely. The merge began differently this time. Instead of rushing together desperately, the 7 storms approached each other with cautious respect, like strangers becoming friends, like rivers joining into one flow while keeping their distinct currents. Daniel felt Lily's healing presence touch his wind, and he did not pull away. He let her in, let her see his deepest fear of inadequacy. She responded by sharing her own fear of failing her patients. Their powers intertwined, wind carrying water, water giving wind purpose. Roger's solid earth foundation anchored them both, heavy and reliable. But they also felt his loneliness, years of hard labor that left little time for connection. Grace's metal storm reached for him, showing him how strength could be shaped into beauty, how endurance could become art. Natasha's lightning crackled between them all, connecting 7 minds into one network. She stopped fighting the merge and instead became its conduit. Her resentment at being chosen did not disappear, but she let the others feel it, and they accepted it as part of who she was. Omar's growth storm pulsed with patient, persistent life. His gentleness did not weaken the merge, but softened its sharp edges, reminding them all that power could nurture as easily as destroy. William's protective fire surrounded them, his military discipline and capacity for violence transformed into fierce guardianship. 7 became one, but one that contained 7 distinct voices. The merged consciousness rose from 7 human bodies. It was not human anymore, not dragon either, something new, something that had never existed before. The healing wind spiraled upward, a column of elemental power that pierced the poisoned sky. Every color of the 7 storms swirled together, creating shades that had no names. The pillar of light could be seen from orbit. The void sickness recoiled. For the first time in its existence, the endless hunger encountered something it could not consume. The healing wind was not alive in the way the sickness understood. It was pure gift, pure offering, an emptiness filled with everything. The merged carriers perceived reality as dragons once did. They saw the void sickness clearly now, not evil, just empty. A hole in existence that tried to fill itself by consuming. It had no malice, no thought, only need. The healing wind poured into that need. The sickness tried to devour the offering, but there was no end to it. Dragon power, split and hidden in 7 hearts, had grown in ways a single dragon's power never could. It had learned human compassion, human stubbornness, human refusal to accept that some things could not be saved. The infection zone began to change. Darkness met light and transformed into something between the two. The void learned for the first time to create instead of consume, to give instead of take. Dead soil became fertile. Ash became rich earth. The wound in space began to close as the sickness itself changed at a fundamental level, evolving from predator to symbiote. On Horizon's dawn, High Scholar Marin watched through sensors that barely functioned this close to the transformation. Tears ran down his scaled face. "It is working," he whispered. "By the old stars, it is actually working." Dr. Sato monitored the planet's life signs. Readings that had been flat were beginning to spike, not just returning to previous levels, but growing stronger. The world below was not just healing, it was being reborn. Captain Reeves, monitoring from his military vessel in high orbit, opened a communication channel. "What am I looking at? My sensors say that entire infection zone is transforming." "You are looking at hope," Ambassador Trilvan replied simply. "You are watching 7 ordinary humans save 43 million lives." The merge held for 17 minutes, 17 minutes of perfect unity. 7 storms singing in harmony, their differences creating beauty instead of discord. Then, gently, they separated. The 7 humans collapsed in their circle, gasping for breath. The living mandala Omar had created glowed beneath them, roots spreading deep into soil that was alive again. Around them, the dead forest was sprouting. Green shoots pushed through ash. Flowers bloomed. Life returned. Daniel lay on his back, staring up at a sky that was clearing. He felt exhausted and energized at the same time, changed. He was still himself, still Daniel Reed, cargo pilot, but also more. He would never be alone again. 6 other souls were now permanently woven into his. "Did we do it?" Lily asked weakly. Roger sat up slowly, his enhanced senses feeling the planet's pulse beneath him. "We did. The sickness is transforming, becoming something that creates life instead of destroying it." They helped each other stand, legs shaky, scales glowing faintly. Around them, the transformation spread outward in waves. Everywhere the void sickness had touched, new life emerged. Strange, hybrid ecosystems that had never existed before. The darkness had not been destroyed. It had been changed. Marin's voice came through their communication devices. "The rift is closing. The planet's readings are stabilizing. You saved them. You saved everyone." The ship landed beside them. They climbed aboard, too tired to speak, and lifted away from the surface. Through the viewports, they watched the planet healing beneath them. Cities that had been silent were beginning to power up again. People were waking from the edge of death, confused but alive. Back on Refuge Station, they were greeted as heroes. The Shimmer Collective sent a delegation to thank them. The rough-scale clans offered to teach them dragon lore properly. Captain Reeves himself admitted that perhaps they were not threats after all. But the 7 carriers barely heard the praise. They gathered in a quiet observation room, watching stars drift by. "We cannot undo this," Natasha said finally, looking at her scaled hands. "We are changed permanently, part dragon, part human, something in between." "I know," Daniel replied, "and I think I am okay with that now." "The void sickness will appear again," Roger added. "Dr. Sato detected 3 more outbreaks in distant systems. This is not over." "Then we keep going," Lily said. "We keep helping. That is what Thunderwing wanted. That is why he gave us these gifts." "We should establish a base here," William suggested. "Refuge Station is neutral ground. We can respond to threats from here." Grace nodded. "And we need to train. Learn to merge faster, more efficiently. We barely held it together for 17 minutes. "We held it together long enough," Omar corrected gently. "That is what matters." They fell silent, each processing what they had become. Storm carriers, dragon inheritors, guardians of a galaxy that was not their own. "What do we call ourselves?" Grace asked. William considered. "We are not dragons, not fully human anymore either." "We are bridges," Lily offered, "between species, between elements, between what was and what can be." "We are proof," Natasha added, her resentment finally giving way to acceptance, "that humans can carry great power without being corrupted by it." "We are builders," Roger said, "protectors of what can be." Daniel smiled, feeling the connection to his 6 companions humming in his chest like a second heartbeat. "We are all of those things. But mostly, we are just 7 people who chose to care about a galaxy that was not our own." Ambassador Trilvan entered the observation room, her feathers shimmering with pride. "Word is spreading. Other species are asking to meet you, some with hope, some with fear, all with curiosity." "Let them come," Daniel said. "We have nothing to hide." Over the following weeks, Refuge Station became a hub of activity. Ships from 100 worlds arrived, all wanting to meet the storm carriers. Some species remembered the dragons with reverence. Others had never heard of them. All were fascinated by humans who carried elemental power. The 7 trained daily with Marin, learning to merge and separate smoothly. They could now hold unity for an hour without strain. They discovered they could share thoughts even when apart, communicate across vast distances through their connection. More outbreaks of void sickness were detected. The carriers responded to each one, traveling to threatened worlds, merging their powers to create the healing wind. Each time, the transformation worked. The sickness learned to create instead of consume. They saved the Shimmer Collective's homeworld, then a rough-scale colony, then a human settlement on the frontier, world after world, life after life. They became known across the galaxy. The storm carriers, the dragon's gift, humanity's guardians. But they never forgot what they truly were. 7 ordinary people who had been given extraordinary power and chose to use it with extraordinary care. Daniel stood on an observation deck late one night, unable to sleep. The others found him there, drawn by their connection. They gathered without speaking, shoulders touching, scales catching starlight. "Do you think Thunderwing knew," Lily asked quietly, "that it would work, that we would succeed?" "I think he hoped," Daniel replied. "That is all anyone can do, hope and try and refuse to give up." "The age of dragons is over," Marin had told them once. "But you 7 have begun something new, something that could be even better." They watched the stars wheel by. Somewhere out there, more worlds needed saving. More species needed protection. The work would never truly end. But they were not alone. They had each other. 7 storms, 7 hearts, one impossible purpose. And for now, for this moment, standing together in the quiet dark, that was enough. The galaxy had changed the day. A dying dragon split his power into 7 storms. It changed again the day 7 humans chose to become guardians instead of gods. The future remained unwritten, but it would be written by 7 ordinary people who had learned that the greatest power is not the ability to destroy, but the courage to care. 7 storms hidden in 7 hearts. Together, they would light the way forward.